Nikki, also known as Dragonfly7673. This is DragonflySoars. I'm recording it on May 13th, 2013, and it's about 5:30. I'm hoping this will go pretty quick. I've got stuff to get done tonight. If you've seen the title of the episode, I don't always title them before I start, but sometimes I do. And this one's called Lists to Remember. I've been finding myself making lists all the time lately. With everything happening with my dad, you know, your brain's kind of befuddled, you're trouble concentrating. So at work, I've been making lists of things that need to get done. At home, when I'm trying to think, I'm making lists of things to get done. This is a packing list of what I need for this week is CJ Kopech's Guts, Grits, and Pink Lipstick retreat in Michigan. So I have a list of things I need to remember and or things I need to do. Like I needed to block my TGV shawl because that shawl needs to come to the retreat with me. So I've also been making lists a little bit. Like as I remember things about my dad, I've been kind of writing them down. So they're for me. Because right now he's fresh and I keep thinking, you know, what if you forget the little quirky things later? So there's lists to remember him, as well as lists to remember to pack underwear. Anyway, so first thing I want to talk about is the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation fundraiser. Now I'm recording this on Monday, and Wednesday is the last day to donate and enter. It's the last day to donate. That's per the Great Strides Walk rules. And so that it will also be the last day that you can let me know that you donated, so it's the last day to be entered for a prize. If you never told me that you donated for a prize, please let me know, even if you don't want to be entered, because I've been trying to match people up, and right now there was someone out there named Karen who has that it's for DragonflySoars podcast, but I don't know her Rav or Plurk name, so if you are Karen, please let me know. If you don't want to be entered for a prize, that's fine, but there have been so many people who forgot to tell me that do want to be entered that I hate to have somebody miss. And if you donated, but you don't have DragonflySoars next to you, I don't have you counted at all because I have no way of knowing that you're from the podcast. Somebody contacted me today, and I had actually seen she donated several weeks ago, and I didn't have her on the list at all because it didn't say DragonflySoars, and she hadn't contacted me yet. So, if you donated, contact me. I've been trying to chase people down if I can. You know, sometimes there's people who I know from previous contests or swaps or something like that I might know your real name and your Ravelry name. Otherwise, I don't know. And I hate to see somebody not get entered because they forgot to tell me. But in the meantime, along with the prizes that we already had 2 bags from Pitaloop, a skein of wool mice from Tina, Blooming Knitter of the Knitting Blooms podcast. We have 2 patterns from Cece Almond, who is Java Pearl of the Geeky Girls Knit podcast. They're 2 patterns of her design. There is a custom skein from Ethereal Fibers, a small project bag from Daisy's Doodads, who is a friend of Tiff's, and a hand knit shawl from my friend Fran, which is one of the things I was blocking yesterday. I blocked my TGV and the other shawl. I figured I might as well get them both done. But Jen from Pitaloop Bags, the first 2 Pitaloop bags I bought, she donated 3 more prizes because she knows AJ, so she wanted to do something to help. So this is another Piddly bag. This one Has Partridge Family birds on it. This is a triangle bag with pink hearts and flowers. And this is a box bag set. So this is one of her large box bags. So this is the large box bag, and her box bag sets always come with a notions pouch. So this prize goes together. She did say on this one that somewhere there is a flower that the fabric is marked up, and I did spot it before, but it was like so. It took me forever to find it before, and now I don't see it again. Oh, right there. Most of us would never really notice that, and for a free prize, we certainly are not complaining. So, thank you, Jen. So, that actually equals, makes 12 prizes. And when I checked earlier, we now had 50 people that I know donated from the podcast, whether they put the DragonflySoars or not, but between people that have put DragonflySoars and or contacted me. There's only one person that put DragonflySoars that hasn't contacted me, and that would be Karen. Everybody else has, knowing, what I know, we reached 50 people today. So, Living for Fishing was number 50, and I was so glad because I really wanted us. We were at 46 for a few days, and I really wanted to get that last push to get to 50. So, Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, donate Wednesday at the latest, and let me know, and I will be drawing for prizes. My plan is I'm going to the retreat this weekend. I'm actually back on Sunday, but I took Monday off as sort of a recovery day. So right now I'm planning to record on Monday and tell you about the retreat. And when I do, I will draw the prizes for the cystic fibrosis. I might do what I did last year for Susan G. Komen, which was to pre-draw everything and just flash them across the screen with the pictures. That seemed to work really well, and then guys don't have to sit through all the drawings. So what I did last time is I put everybody's name on a strip of paper, and I wrote one prize per Dragonfly business card. Or I have business cards for this podcast. I wrote the prize on a business card and a strip of paper with all the names. I put them all into a bag, mixed them all together, and I would reach in and draw one strip of paper plus one business card. And that pairing, that was how people won. And then all I did was I did all that, and then I posted the prizes at the end, so we didn't have to sit through it all. Then there's no random number generator, stuff like that, especially for something like this where the people are coming from all different, because some people told me on Plurk, some people told me via the Ravelry thread, some people private messaged me, some people sent me an email to the DragonflySoars email address. So since they were coming from all different directions, or some people I saw on the website and then hunted them down, there's no good way to number everybody, so I will just draw the same way I did last time. All right. The next things I was going to talk about are my knitting and spinning. I don't have any finished objects, but because Tiff was just on last week, I thought you guys might want to see her finished objects. So I'm going to pause here and splice in her pictures. You saw her shawl. That's the same shawl you saw before. It's the Lazy Katie, and it is out of Lang Jawal Magic. But it's blocked in the picture where it wasn't before. And then you also saw that she finished her Socks on a Plane, which is the Laura Linneman Lala pattern. And I did verify that indeed the Vesper yarn she was knitting with was the yarn I purchased from Lala. So Lala destashed it, and then I think what I realized was I had two that were two Vespers that were very, very similar, and so Tiff took one of them, and then now she's using it to knit a Lala pattern. And I find those kind of things interesting. But the reason I have this is because we swapped. Since she only needed one skein, she took another yarn of mine that was similar. The same type of twist and slow color progression. She took one of those out of my stash, and I took this one. So, I don't have any finished objects, but I do have knitting to show you. This is my Firehawk shawl. It's the back side. And at this point, I am now totally done with the green. Everything from this point forward will be this pink and orange variegation. So this is Classic Elite Alpaca Socks, and the green is Knit Picks Gloss, I think. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I stopped when I reached the end of the green because I started working on other things. I'll show you in a minute. But in case you don't remember, the Firehawk shawl is by Heather Zappetti, and it looks like this. So the cable design goes up all the way in some sections and part way in other sections. But anyway, I'm on the solid section right now. Or I will be. And I'm counting this as one of my emerald projects for May, because it is a dark green. Any dark, deep green counts. Dark, deep, bright green. Willow Fairy has a beret that she made that's definitely a light spring green, and she and I talked back and forth, and we decided we weren't going to count that because it definitely was not an emerald color. I mean, normally I'm not picky, but even she said that would be pushing it. So, my other project is I did start my socks. I'm knitting them 2 at a time, which you almost never see me do, but I decided I wanted to this time. So got one ball of yarn, and I'm knitting from the center and the outside. Now the trick to doing that is to make sure that you always have your yarn this way. You want the center pole coming from the bottom and the one that goes around the outside from the top. This way they don't tangle on each other. This one never touches the center pole one, and this one doesn't tangle on the outside one. If you do it this way, eventually the 2 yarns get all tangled up and wrapped around each other, and it's just kind of a pain. So, the Leyburn sock pattern is made for somebody with a very tiny foot and a much bigger gauge than I have. They knit and got 7.5 stitches per inch, which I never do 7.5 stitches per inch on socks. I want them more solid than that. And they did it for a foot that was 7.5 inches around the ball of the foot. Again, not my size. So and apparently not a lot of other people's size, because I saw a lot of people doing changes to the pattern on Ravelry. So what I did is, I normally, with this gauge, would do a 72 stitch sock. It called for 31 stitches on the top of the foot for the stitch pattern, and 25 on the bottom. That would be way too small. So instead, and the stitch pattern's in groups of 6. Groups of 6 plus 1 stitch for an edge. So 31 stitches was what was on the top. I added another group of 6, making the top 37. And then I made the sole, I increased that until 35. Well, 37 and 35 equals 72, which is my normal stitch count. So I'm hoping that will work. When I'm doing toe up, I try it on when I think I'm going to stop the toe increases, and you can't really do it here, but what I do is I put it on my foot, and if it fits to the top of the pinky toe, then that's where I want it. That usually gives it just enough negative ease to stay put and fit comfortably. Now, this is on a very long Knit Picks, size 1, 2.25 millimeter. I normally wouldn't pick one this long, but here's what happened. I love signature needles. I'm going to say that right now. I know there's some podcasters who have had problems lately of them breaking or whatever. I've never had a problem with signature needles. I don't let projects hang a lot. I tend to hold them up. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, knitting style, who knows. But I have not had a problem with any of my signatures. So I was really excited when they came out with a sock size. And they have a size 1, 2.25. I wanted to love these. I actually was saving these for a special project. You know, just waiting for something where I needed the super points and everything. And I really wanted to love these. I don't. I do not like these. The cable is not the same one that's on the bigger ones. These are signatures. This cable is very flexible. This cable is not. This cable bends and kinks and does all sorts of weird things. This join is not very smooth. I was constantly fighting to push the stitches up stitches from the cable up onto the needle. And I used it all weekend and was kind of going, okay, I'm dealing with it, but as soon as I got home, I found a pair of Knit Picks, and the only one that I could easily find was that 47 incher. And even though it's way too long, I'm still happier than I was with the signature. And I'm sad, because like I said, I really, really wanted to like those. I do know that they are in the process of redoing the size 1s and the size 7s. I don't know what they're redoing. I don't know what they are doing to them, but I know they're redoing them. So I'm going to pause for a second and show you pictures of the Firehawk and the socks so far. Alright, next up, I'm going to show you something I got. Tina, Blooming Knitter of the Knitting Blooms podcast, has talked about these. Now she, Barmaids sponsors her shows, but she talks about Barmaids and their Lolo bars and their Obviously not chapstick, that's a brand name, but lip moisturizer, everything. She really likes their face pudding. I've never used it, but I do like their body bars, and I decided, and they have these new candles, and I wanted to try them. So, these are called Twisted Lights. They are made to look like balls of yarn. I have one red one and one green one, both the same size. This is the size small. So, I mean, you can see it in my hand. It's about the size of my, well, it's smaller than the size of my fist. These are 100% beeswax, which are supposed to be the only, like, hypoallergenic type of wax. I don't know when I'm going to burn these. I have cats, so candles are usually a bad idea, but I still, around the house, have candles. They just never get burnt. But I like the way these look. So that was the red one. And this is the green one. This one's more of a olive green, so. Alright, and I took a picture of these so that you can see them a little better. Okay, I have a couple other things to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about spinning. I do not have my fiber or my bobbin upstairs, but I've been spinning on the Dragonfly Fibers Sea Monster Roving. Now, I had got this at Stitches last year, and it is very bright green, so it is being used for emerald for this month, and so that is coming along nicely. I will post a picture. I'm also going to post a picture of my new chair. I'm very excited. Going to the retreat, there was a comment about the fact that that there are 3 couches, but people might want to bring chairs. And then all of a sudden I was thinking, I'm going to bring my spinning wheel. And I know when I'm at my parents' house, I struggle with having something to sit on that's comfortable and the right height for spinning. The love seat that's in my son has an area that he uses that's kind of his room. It's everything for him except his bed. He's got a love seat in there, but it's too low for spinning. I end up sitting on this little stool that my mom has, but it's uncomfortable for too long. So I'm thinking, I can't sit at a knitting retreat for hours and be uncomfortable. And a couch probably may or may not work for spinning. So I was looking for a chair, and I had decided that I wanted something like a camping chair, but most camping chairs tend to lean back. And if I have something where I'm leaning back, I have trouble spinning, and it hurts my back after a while. And then as I started looking, I saw that some have a swing-out little table, and I was like, you know, that would be really nice, especially for the retreat, because I could put, you know, my cup of coffee or whatever on the table. If I need to set something down, I could set it down there. Well, a best friend and I were looking at a variety of stores, and we found what I was looking for, but things weren't always quite right. Like, I'd sit on it, and there would be a bar pushing on the back of my thighs, and I'd be going, you know what? This is uncomfortable now for just a couple minutes. If I sit on this for hours, I'm going to be so miserable. Or the height would be a little bit wrong. There were all sorts of reasons why different ones wouldn't work. I was starting to get kind of frustrated. And then he suggested we go to Dunham Sports, which is not a place I normally go to. And they had one that was so... first of all, it had what I wanted. It was a director's style. It had a full back. A lot of them only had a half back. And my concern was that if my back is bothering me, one of the things I could do is throw a pillow or a blanket or something behind my back. But if you only have a half back, it just falls through the hole. So this has a full back, and then it has the table that opens up, including a cup holder in the table. Well, and I didn't even realize at first that on the other side, it has a fold-up zippered cooler. So it's canvas on the outside and that metallic fabric on the inside to use it as a cooler. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that is like the best project bag because it's attached to the chair. I've been using this chair at home because I wanted to make sure that, yes, I really could sit in it for a decent time. And I've been putting my fiber in. I have my fiber, my hook, different things are in the side pocket. So I'm going to show you a picture of my fiber, my spinning so far, and my new chair, which I'm very excited about. And apparently the cats like too. Okay, so that's my spinning setup. And I have been spinning. That is coming out thin enough. I've actually been pre-drafting, and I don't always do that, but this time I wanted to, and the pre-drafting has allowed me to spin thinner. If anybody's at the retreat and sees me and has ideas about how you shouldn't pre-draft, I don't want to know. I'm perfectly happy and zen-like spinning however I feel like spinning at that moment in time. So I actually have this like fear that somebody's going to try and correct me, and I don't. I like spinning is one of those things I don't need to be perfect. But anyway, so I'm really looking forward to the retreat and my spinning. But speaking of spinning, recently there was some discussion on Ravelry about whether or not they should include more features for spinners. And it turns out that when they were doing, the Ravelry powers that be, were deciding what to do, they went through and looked at how many people had marked stash as handspun. And they used that to decide how many spinners there were. And when they did, it was only like 1% of the members on Ravelry. Meaning that they decided it wasn't worth it to add spinning at this time. And some of us were talking and we're going, a lot of people were saying, well, they don't add their spinning stash or their fiber because the tools aren't there and it's not really set up for it. That doesn't mean we don't want it. So what they've been asking people to do is a couple things. One, if you have handspun like this, put it in your stash and click the little button that says My Handspun, and I'll post a picture of that. Also, what I do is I mark my fiber also as handspun, and then what I do is I add a tag. If it's spun, my tag says spun, and if it's not spun, I have a tag that says unspun. This also makes my life easier when I'm searching for a particular fiber or I'm looking for yarn. I can easily search on My Handspun and then say spun or unspun, depending on what I'm doing, whether I'm looking for something to knit or I'm looking for something to spin next. So if you have any fiber stash or you have handspun yarn, go in and click the little My Handspun so that in the future, when they do their counts again, it is more correct. The other thing you can do, and I'm linking this in the show notes, and I'll also link it on the Ravelry thread, there are 3 spinning items on the list. Now, if you don't know, in Ravelry there is a list of enhancement requests. It also includes bugs. But for our purposes, there's a list for enhancement requests. And when somebody makes an enhancement request that either hasn't been requested before, if it hasn't been requested before, it will get added to this list. If it has been requested, the moderators will link your request to an existing one. And you can go in and vote for them. You can say, yes, I'd like to see this too. And then there's also a checkbox of notify me when this is available. There are 3 spinning ones. There is one for easier adding of fiber, I believe. One is about your tools. That one I don't care as much about personally, but that's fine. It's for being able to add spindles and spinning wheels the same as you add needles and hooks. I think. And then the other one is being able to better add your hand spun, adding yardage and weight. Because right now what I do is you can add yardage when it's done. You can add, the only way you can add weight is you can tag it with the weight, with the yarn weight, I mean, you can weigh like the 4 ounces, but the yarn weight, that this is a DK. There's no way to do that right now. So there are 3 items on the spinning list, and frankly, if we had those 3, I think we'd be set. So if you have hand spun, if you have fiber that is yet to be yarn, or you have hand spun that is yarn, put it in your Ravelry stash and mark it with my hand spun. They are a small little team, so they're still going to have to prioritize, but at least let's help them make sure that their numbers properly reflect the number of spinners, because there was a whole bunch of people that were like, wait a minute, if I had known that, I would have started putting stuff in. So that was something to do. And then I had something totally different to talk to you about. There is an app, and I'm sorry, it's only for Apple right now. I hope they do it for Android too, because I've been really loving this app. It's called Days. And you can share, just a second, let me see if I can close this out and start it up again. You take photos throughout the day and basically make a photo journal. I'll post a picture if that didn't work. So if you're following me on Plurk or on Twitter, you have been seeing these where I'm now doing a photo journal of my day. And what's fun about it is, instead of like Instagram or Plurk where you might take a photo at that moment in time, is you collect your moments of the day, throughout the day, and then and the way they do the day is from 5 a.m. to 5 a.m., which I'll explain in a minute. But, so you collect your photos throughout the entire day, and then when you're done with all your photos, then you post it, and you get one post of all your days. And it basically tells as you've been taking pictures, it tells the story of your day, which is a little different than just posting a moment in time. This way somebody gets to kind of see the whole day, and it's making me re-look at how I'm thinking of my day, because sometimes you have a lot of stuff that goes on in a day, and there's a neat thing about being able to see it all in a group. And I kind of wish I had this in the last few weeks when we were dealing with stuff, even with my dad, because there was so much going on and so many different things and so many places we were going and so many people, that I wish there was even a little bit of photo journaling so I could remember it. Like I said, right now it is only for Apple devices, and it is only, and you have to take a picture while you're in the app. You can't put it on your camera roll and then bring it in. It's because they want you to actually do it in the moment, and they don't want people photoshopping or putting funny Facebook pictures and stuff like that. They want you to actually take pictures of your life. But it also auto-saves to your camera roll. So if you take a picture of something, like just before I started talking, I took a picture of my setup here, and it will post in tomorrow's. And so that goes into my photo journal, and it also goes to my camera roll. You can also, if you take a couple photos in succession, like really close together, it'll combine them. It'll assume that this is the same moment, and it combines them to make an animated GIF. So it'll go between I've had up to 4 pictures. And then if you didn't mean to, for example, you took a picture and then you went to look and you did something stupid, which I've done, you can also split the photos. You can't ever recombine them if you split them, but you can split them. You can delete ones that you don't want posted, you know, like you took a picture of the floor while you were walking. I've done that. So anyway, it's a neat app. There's a couple of us who have started using it, and it's just kind of fun. I do hope they come out with an Android version, because I think it's a neat way of looking at it. And instead of an Instagram moment that I may like you, but I may not care, you know, or notice that you posted something. I don't follow Instagram anyway, but I may not notice something and clerk right away, but I like seeing the whole day. It kind of gives a whole picture of the day and the story of the person that it is. At least I think so. Okay, so that is called Days, and I have the link in the show notes already. That's everything. Yeah, that should be everything. I will talk to you guys later. Last week I forgot to post the Think Geek unicorn slippers, so I posted them as a secondary, in between this episode and the last episode. There's a blog post for the unicorn slippers. I also put it on the Ravelry thread for last week's episode. But I will talk to you guys all later. Bye.